Disclaimer. Twigs Cafe Radio and TwigsCafeRadio.com and its owners and associates take no responsibility for the opinions, statements, or claims made by the talk show hosts or their guests. Statements or show topics are not necessarily the beliefs of the station.
First break. When I come back, I'm going to have a great guest on the line. Andre Roxx, former member of the Wu Tang Clan, and got his own political broadcast. And we're back on Justice Served with Andy Ostrowski here on Twigs Cafe Radio. And I got a text while we were off there. Before we went on air earlier today, we were experiencing some technical difficulties. We were working out some bugs with some new equipment, and there might have been some cutting in and cutting out. But we're going to rebroadcast this whole show Thursday at 6 o'clock. We're going to rebroadcast this version of Twigs Cafe or Justice Served with Andy Ostrowski, and then that'll be the day of my disciplinary proceeding. And you'll have heard me read that letter. I'm going to put the letter up on my my Facebook page. I'll do that later on, or do it tomorrow morning. I'm going to send it out to the disciplinary authorities. Let everybody know. I mean, I just tried to, offer some decent words, for much bigger purposes than any specific purpose of mine, any selfish purpose of mine. And, I'll look forward to talking about that. So, like I said, we're going to rebroadcast this whole show Thursday at 6. And then, of course, it'll be in the queue with the rest of them that run through. What we're going to do right now is we're going to go to our guest tonight. I've got on the line a fellow by the name of Andre Roxx, who was a former member of the Wu Tang Clan and now is a radio host himself on KYBN Rock Radio KYBN. Sorry about that, Andre. Hey, I got you there. How you doing? And welcome to the show tonight.
Hey, Andy. Thank you for having me on tonight. And I'm actually still a member of the group, but I do have the radio show now. I'm just not doing a whole lot of music at the moment. I got a whole lot of other things going on.
Okay, well, and I'm sorry about that. And, I talked to you, I guess, was it yesterday or today? Yesterday for the first time, and I wasn't aware of that connection. And I looked at some of your stuff before, and it just didn't jump right out of me. I was more interested in, looking at your political stuff and looking at your radio show, but you've got a whole entertainment history. And, why don't we start? How does a rapper in one of the the most popular hip hop groups in the world? You're East Coast group, right? You guys are East Coast. Yeah. How do you get from that to political radio?
I've always been very political with my music to begin with. The reason that I got into hip hop to begin with was not necessarily, I love the culture of hip-hop, make no mistake.
Amen.
But the reason that I got into it is because I really wanted to have a voice. I wanted people to hear the stories of the urban community, to hear the stories that were going on around me. And the radio was just kind of a natural extension, especially as I've gotten a little bit older. I may not necessarily appeal to the younger people anymore. Got a couple gray hairs going on, a couple spots.
No, I saw those pictures. You're still a handsome man, and I saw you're only like 30 years old, right?
I am 30. I've lived a little bit longer than 30 as far as what I've seen in my life, though. But I'm getting a little older, and I'm starting to deal with a little bit older crowd just in my daily life. And it put me in a position where some of my opinions and thoughts are reaching a little bit older demographic, and it just kind of was a natural progression for me to start speaking on the radio. It's a really interesting story. There was a whole lot of things that went on with the media and things like that put my music career on a little bit of a hold, and that's when I was given the opportunity to get on the radio, and I guess some people like what I had to say.
Well, I like what I'm hearing so far, and just by way of general background, I came out of a very white suburban area, but there was something in me. I lived in an area where the first black family ever to move into this area, moved into my neighborhood, and I became best friends with Anthony growing up, and that instilled something in me because I never thought of things in terms of race and whatnot, and I thank that experience for making me who I am, because these issues of race relations and racial equality and equal treatment have been very important to me for my whole professional life. And then even, when, like back when the hip hop, really started getting popular, I guess probably more like back in the 90s or so with the, Eazy-E and Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and all those bands, I really took a liking to that music. And not, of course I like the beats and everything, but I like the expression. I like what they were talking about. I liked the view of what they were given from their life experience. And I think, I think that's what you're talking about, right? I mean, there was a real content to that music that if you can get past, a curse word here and a curse word there and, some aggressive language, you can really get a good political message out of a lot of that music.
Absolutely. And I think that, first of all, the profanity is a part of the life
Absolutely.
Of the urban community, because, in certain situations, there's just not another word to describe it.
Right.
But it's a lot of, especially what it was back in the day. I mean, some of the stuff that's coming out now is just horrible. But what it was all the way up until probably the late 90s, it was really a chance to give a voice to those that had no voice. It was a chance to for somebody who in any other arena would have never been heard by the masses. Their story would have never gotten out there.
You're absolutely right. Yep.
And it gave them that opportunity to speak and to have their voices heard in a way where the world would listen, and in some cases would actually try and do something about it.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you heard the beginning of my show, but I've got I'm a fan of Eminem, and his upbringing through the whole hip hop movement, and I've got to the beginning of his the White America. I mean, what a powerful lyric that is, and that whole song just really speaks to this whole movement of speaking to people's pain out there who are looking for a voice and looking for access to a system, and the opportunities that music like this gives people, and that's pretty much what you experience, right?
Absolutely. I mean, music definitely speaks to the soul of people. When it's very hard to describe, but it taps into a part of someone that just a regular speech or anything like that just can't access. I think it taps directly into the soul. Do not pass go, do not collect $200, directly to the soul of someone. And I think that you basically, when you make music, you connect your soul directly to another person's soul without any intermediaries.
Yeah, hey, I saw on your site, I looked at some of your bio stuff, and first, right on the beginning of it, and the site is AndreRoxx.com, and I'll give you a chance to, shout out all the information that you want, all your contact information, but you say right on there, words are my paintbrush, eardrums are my canvas, the reviews are one of the most profound lyricists of our age, the world will be ready for an artist like this in 50 years, and then this other one, this radio show smashed my ideas about rappers. This guy is more than a thugged out gangster. He's more intelligent than half the guys on Capitol Hill. So you got a good following out there. So how did you transition then into this radio thing that you're working on?
Well, honestly, it was a blessing and a curse. There was a very bad media story that was run about me incorrectly. Another member of my group, he unfortunately had some substance abuse problems and some personal issues that he was going through. And his name is Andre Johnson. Of course, my legal name is Marcus Andre Johnson. Mm-hmm. He was out in California one night, and he cut his penis off and jumped out of a window.
Wow.
Yeah, it is a very sad situation. Unfortunately, everyone ran the story. There were several news outlets, and I can't really get into who they were because there's some pending legal matters with this. But there were several news outlets who ran the story as if it was me, and then, of course, it turned into a huge international deal. I mean, I was getting calls from Tokyo, people asking me about this. And in the industry that I'm in, hip-hop, your masculinity is a big part of your stage persona when you're a hip-hop artist. Right. So losing your masculinity, having your masculinity come into question is a very big career no-no. So So it put me in a position where I could not get a show, couldn't get a label to work with me, could not get a promoter to book me for an event. And just like anybody else, I have bills to pay, and I have to work.
Yep.
So I was approached by Big Bad Radio, a small radio station out of Philadelphia, and they asked me to come on and just, speak on some of the things that I was seeing around me. They basically told me, hey, you can come on for an hour and talk about whatever you want to talk about. And that's pretty much what I did. And I started talking about just different issues that I was seeing. The police brutality issue became a very big topic on my show. And people just really got into it. So about a month after I got onto Big Bad Radio, I was approached by a friend of mine who had taken my tape to KYBN, which is an internationally syndicated radio company, and they wanted to pick up my show. So they purchased my show from Big Bad Radio and brought me on, and the rest is pretty much history. Somebody thought that it was a good idea, and I still don't.
But you say right on there, words are my paintbrush, eardrums are my canvas. The reviews are one of the most profound lyricists of our age. The world will be ready for an artist like this in 50 years. And then this other one, this radio show smashed my ideas about rappers. This guy is more than a thugged out gangster. He's more intelligent than half the guys on Capitol Hill. So, you got a good following out there. So how did you transition then into this radio thing that you're working on?
Well, honestly, it was a blessing and a curse. There was a very bad media story that was run about me incorrectly. Another member of my group, he unfortunately had some substance abuse problems and some personal issues that he was going through, and his name is Andre Johnson. Of course, my legal name is Marcus Andre Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
He was out in California one night, and he cut his penis off and jumped out of a window.
Wow.
Yeah, it is a very sad situation. Unfortunately, everyone ran the story. There were several news outlets, and I can't really get into who they were because there's some pending legal matters with this. But there were several news outlets who ran the story as if it was me, and then, of course, it turned into a huge, huge international deal. I mean, I was getting calls from Tokyo, people asking me about this. And in the industry that I'm in, hip-hop, your masculinity is a big part of your stage persona when you're a hip-hop artist.
Right.
So losing your masculinity, having your masculinity come into question is a very big career no-no. So it put me in a position where I could not get a show, couldn't get a label to work with me, could not get a promoter to book me for an event. And just like anybody else, I have bills to pay, and I have to work.
Yep.
So I was approached by Big Bad Radio, a small radio station out of Philadelphia, and they asked me to come on and just, speak on some of the things that I was seeing around me. They basically told me, hey, you can come on for an hour and talk about whatever you want to talk about. And that's pretty much what I did. And I started talking about just different issues that I was seeing. The police brutality issue became a very big topic on my show. And people just really got into it. So about a month after I got onto Big Bad Radio, I was approached by a friend of mine who had taken my tape to KYBN, which is an internationally syndicated radio company, and they wanted to pick up my show. So they purchased my show from Big Bad Radio and brought me on, and the rest is pretty much history. Somebody thought that it was a good idea, and I still don't understand this to this day. Somebody thought it was a good idea to put a mic in front of me and let me say whatever I wanted to say.
Yeah. And then the truth came out, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I think that they thought that I wasn't going to say what I said, and I kept saying it, people kept listening, and it got huge. And really all I'm doing, everybody labels it a social or political show or something like that. I'm just speaking from my heart and speaking about the things that I see around me and the situations that I see that are affecting the people that I know, the people that I've grown up with, the people that I have been around my whole life, and the types of people that I've been around my whole life, and the people who don't necessarily get a chance to tell their stories. I mean, I think that's a big
amen. That's
entire
and that's a lot. That's a lot
career.
That's a lot of what I do here. I mean, I talk about these issues and justice in the courts, and people don't get a chance. The courts, judges, and they get to tell the story of what goes on in the courts. And what they report to the media tells a story from their perspective. We try to give a voice to people who are suffering through this system and out there. So I hear what you're saying, and just two things. We'll come up on a break in a couple of minutes, but I just want to make sure I'm sympathetic to somebody who's dealing with reputational issues, and I want to I don't want to ask any specific questions because you have a lawsuit and you want to I don't want to pry where I shouldn't be prying, but anything more you want to add about the lawsuit, and just to get the word out there to address the issues as you want to address them?
The only thing that I really can say at this point is that it wasn't me. I've dealt with a lot, even within my own group. Even though I'm still under contract, still a member of the Wu Tang, they've done a lot to turn their back on me.
Okay.
And I want to get the word out there that this was not me. I do feel very bad for the gentleman that did do this, because there's obviously some mental issues out there. But
I can imagine. And for exactly the reason that you're saying, the importance of that masculine identity in that genre of music. I can imagine how many people would have turned their back on you.
Absolutely.
And then
you know what? All you guys that come up to me on the subways and stuff like that, stop trying to take my pictures. Stop asking me if it was me and if it was really true. Please stop.
Is that right? Wow, still going on. Well, if there's anything I can do to help you, live that, address that issue, I'll give you a voice here, and we'll help you get the word out any way I can. Let's talk just a little bit more about your show. Your show is The Chamber with Andre Roxx, and when and how do people listen to you?
Well, if you're on the East Coast, it comes on at 2 a.m., so I know that's a little bit of a weird time. That's only because KYBN is mainly out of the West Coast, which means my show is 11 p.m.
It's a Bay Area show, right?
I'm sorry?
It's out of the Bay Area, northern.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. KYBN is out of San Diego. They've actually got San Diego and a San Francisco tower now. But you can always tune in on either KYBNradio.com or just at AndreRoxx.com when we're broadcasting live. And you can also check out the archives at AndreRoxx.com. We usually do the last 15 days on the archives, so you can definitely check those out. And guys, you can just email me if there's a show specifically that you want. I'll always send it out to people. It may take me a few days because I do get a lot of emails. But if you heard a show and it's not up on the archive, shoot me an email. I'll send you a copy of it. I'll Dropbox it to you, no problem.
And what? Maybe give me a half a dozen or so topics that you've covered here in the past month. What are you talking about on your show?
We've done the police brutality issue, the judicial misconduct issue. We've dealt with race relations. We've dealt with presidential politics. I yell at Donald Trump quite a bit on my show.
Well, good for you.
We've covered the Hillary Clinton, the email scandal. We've covered, the statistics of education, black versus white schools. We've covered some of the segregation issues that have gone on because a lot of people don't realize that segregation still exists. We definitely cover a lot of what goes on the prison industrial complex and how that's set up, and basically how that is the new form of slavery, how slavery has not really gone anywhere in this country. They just changed the name. We cover a lot of issues. Anything that is social or political and does affect the urban community, we definitely try and cover it on the chamber.
Well, I'm going to tell you this much, Andre. You got my interest piqued, and I want to start maybe getting into some of these issues with you when you come back. I don't want to ambush you with anything. So, when we come back, the one issue I want to talk to you about is this post you had from yesterday on your Facebook with these white girls wearing the NI asterisk ER T-shirts, and you say, tonight on the chamber I will be discussing the viral photo with the white girls in the nigger T-shirts and whether anyone white, black, or pink with purple polka dots should be able to use that word, and that includes with an A, and that includes at the end with an ER. But I want to hear your opinion.
Yeah, I don't care if it's a silent P at the beginning of the word; it's the same word.
All right, well, let's so we're going to come back. I want to talk about that. I'm interested in this issue that you're talking about, that we still live in a segregated society. I want to hear some of your views on some of this stuff, Andre. I want to give a voice to you, and I want to understand. I want to understand all these issues. We're up on our first break, and we're with Andre Roxx. We will be back on Justice Served here on Twigs Cafe Radio. And we're not waiting until it's over. We're waking you up right in the middle of the program. And we got Andre Roxx on the line. And before we get back to the interview, we are having a couple little technical glitches here tonight. We were having it before we went on. We thought we had it sorted out. We're switching out some equipment and things. So, if you just be patient with us. And Andre, I'm sorry to you if your listeners are out there who are tuned in. But we're going to rebroadcast this interview in full on Thursday, and it will be on our site tonight. But at Thursday at 6, because I'm taking 2 days off. I got to prepare for my reinstatement hearing down in Harrisburg on Thursday. We're going to broadcast this show Thursday at 6. So sorry for any inconvenience out there. This is the nature of the game when you're doing a startup venture. But we're bringing you good radio, and I got a great guest on the line. I'm enjoying it already, and know that we have a lot to talk about, and Andre and I are going to be in a little bit more. So, Andre, with that, I left for the break. I talked about the post with the white girls wearing the N-word T-shirts. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, basically, only one of the young women was identified, and I don't want to bring her name out on the show, on the air, because she is actually the only one that apologized. So I think she doesn't get a pass, but she definitely gets a little bit more sympathy from me.
Yeah, what were they trying to accomplish? I mean, what was their end game here?
It looks like it was just a bunch of young girls who thought that it was a cool thing to do. What they did, they go to the senior picture day, and the girls, they all wear different T-shirts, and then if they stand in a row, they got things that spell out like "Go Team" or
gotcha.
Panthers Rule or something like that, or Class of 2016. Little cute stuff. But what these 6 girls did was they decided after the senior picture shoot that they were going to line up, and they already had their T-shirts on, and spell out the word nigger. And they thought it was funny. And then they put it up on Snapchat, which, for those of you that don't know, Snapchat is that media site where nobody is supposed to be able to pull the picture. Only the people that you send it to are supposed to be able to see it, and then it automatically deletes after 24 hours.
Uh-huh.
And they thought that this was cute. They're in a majority Caucasian, high-income school.
Right.
Where they thought that this was cute. They thought that this would be funny. They thought that, I don't know what exactly was going through their heads. But clearly it would intimidate and be seen as an aggressive situation for the African-American students in their school. And if you look at the picture, these girls were smiling and thought it was the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah, I'm looking at it here, and they're laughing and having a good time, and all their friends out there are yucking it up, and it just shows the total insensitivity. But let's let's I attended last Saturday. I attended a civil rights award ceremony over Martin Luther King holiday at the African American Museum in Philadelphia, and this one young guy did this poem, and it was about the N-word. And it was really, really powerful. And I don't use the word, but I've often wondered, are we giving too much power to words when we so vilify that word? What's my read? What's your view on this? I mean, you seem to be of the view that that word should not be used ever. And I'm not advocating for its use, but I want to just talk about that a little bit.
Right. Well, let me ask you this: if I came to you right now and I said to you, you are no longer a human being. You don't qualify. You're not classified as a human being. You are now a dog. You would take offense to that, right?
Absolutely, sure.
Okay. Well, this is the history of that word that they don't often teach.
Right.
When you had, these white, supposedly Christian settlers that settled the United States of America back in those days, and they brought their first slaves in 1619. You cannot claim Puritanism. You cannot claim to be a good Christian if you're treating your fellow man in such an aggressive and
dehumanizing,
inhumane manner.
Yeah.
So what they did was, in order to go to church on Sunday and claim this moral superiority, and then come back and enslave people first for the tobacco fields and then for the cotton fields, was they said, no, these aren't human beings. These are niggers. Nigger was a classification of animal that was classified as primate. Now, we've sterilized that with our modern dictionary into an ignorant person, but the original definition was literally classifying somebody as an animal, and the word itself was used to strip someone of their humanity. So anytime that you use that word, anytime that you're speaking that word to somebody or you're calling somebody that, you are in essence, and I know the hip-hop community is getting real mad at me right now, but you are in essence basically saying that I do not respect you, I will not honor your basic human rights.
And that was the message of this poem that this young guy read a couple of weeks ago that I heard. And actually, I was sitting there, and it kind of made me squirm a little bit because, like you, I hadn't thought about in those terms. And I've been very, very sensitive to that word and to the cause of equality. But I always felt that there was a little bit too much of a hang up on the word. But maybe I stand corrected, and it's good to talk to people like you and good to hear things like that. And I'm going to float something real controversial with you. And I don't even my listeners might and it's about this word. Couldn't this word be put to rest if a black man went up to a white man and called him the N-word? I mean, wouldn't that take the sting out of it? I mean, somehow or other we got to quit. And again, Andre, I'm not disagreeing with you, and I'm respecting everything that you're saying. But we need to take the power out of a word and say, because the word sometimes people get hung up on and they lose sight of. In this political correct culture, everybody thinks that because they don't say the N-word or they don't call people that word, they don't have a race problem. But the race problem still exists, even though the word doesn't.
Much deeper than that. The race problem is much deeper than the use of the word.
Exactly.
I mean, I think the word is being used. I mean, in the urban community, it's so funny. I hear white kids and black kids and all of that using the word so much now that I think that in some ways it has taken the sting out of it. But just the underlying meaning of the word, I think that we should just put the word to rest completely. We are a very creative culture, and we have an extensive vocabulary. The English language is a very extensive vocabulary. Let's just find something else, because it is so offensive. It does cause such a sting. It causes such a division of people. I can't think of a much uglier word than that word.
It sure does. And even getting your mouth around the word to say it in a conversation about the word is difficult. And I certainly respect and appreciate your view on it. And again, that poem that this guy read, it just like jumped right out at you, the way he used that in his expression. So, hey, let's talk a little bit. I mean, what do you mean? What do you mean? And I'm not, taking you to task on all this. I want you to tell me what you mean. And we still live in a segregated culture.
Well, if you look at it like this, you have a whole lot of segregation going on. Let's first deal with the police brutality issue. You and I both know that blacks are 60% of the people who are stopped under what they call Terry law. Mm-hmm. And even though blacks only make up 13.7% of the population, there are 60% of the people that are stopped under Terry law. Whites only make up about 10% of the people that are stopped under Terry law. But a white man, even though we're 6 times more likely to be stopped, a white under the age of 25 is 4 times more likely to actually have drugs or any illegal anything illegal on them. So we have a huge segregation going on just with the police in this country. We have a huge segregation going on with housing in this country, even though we passed the Fair Housing Act in this country. One of the main ways that people build wealth nowadays is through their real estate and through their home. And what we see going on in the mortgage market right now is that a black man or a black woman who has the same credit qualifications as a white man or a white woman, on average, is charged 1% to 2% higher on their mortgage than their white counterparts, which means that they're building less wealth in this country, which means that, in essence, we still have housing segregation going on, which is why you still have black neighborhoods, white neighborhoods, because a black man making the same wages as a white man in America can basically afford less house and can build less wealth. In addition to that, you still have a situation in America where 75%, or African Americans rather, make 75% of what their white counterparts do for doing the same job. Meaning, if I'm working at a bank, the white guy working next to me is making 25% more than me on average, which is another way that we segregate and are unable to build wealth in this country. We also know that an African American man going into court, let's say you and I both stole a car, and let's say that we were the same age and we had the same criminal record and everything like that. I am 6 times more likely to be sentenced to a prison term than you are, because when I stand in front of a judge, the judge sees me as a hardened criminal, and the judge sees you as a misguided, a guy who made a mistake or something like that. So I'm less likely to be given another chance, which is why the prison population, why the African-American prison population is so high, why 1 out of 3 black men can expect to see the inside of a jail cell before the end of their life, where it's like 1 out of 96 white men or something like that.
Wow. Well, you certainly have the statistics to back up your arguments, and I'm definitely getting where you're coming from. And thank God for these cell phone video cameras, to bring us, shed some light on this issue of police brutality and the treatment of minority, primarily black men and women. But some of these issues that you're talking about, like the pay, the income inequality, and this issue of the differential mortgage rates. We're not hearing a lot about that stuff. I mean, we're finally, Andre, I've been representing people when I was an active practitioner. The race discrimination, the mistreatment. That was my specialty. That's really what I cared a lot about. And I was out there talking about white cops beating up black guys because they were black before we had cell phone cameras. And I just couldn't get any traction with it. So we're being proven right by a lot of this stuff. But why aren't some of this issue? We're finally, because you can't deny and you can't refute video evidence. But why aren't we hearing? Why aren't we hearing about the pay differential? Why aren't we hearing about these mortgage rate differential? I guess we are if we listen to KYBN and listen to Andre Roxx. But why aren't we hearing about this stuff politically more?
Well, to be honest with you, because people are too caught up in Real Housewives of Atlanta and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of things that are put out there to distract us. We've been given this myth that because we have an African American president now, that we somehow have just transitioned into this post-racial society, and I think that it is not. It is not difficult for the government just to continue to distract us and allow us to continue to believe that, which would cause a lot less upheaval. Nobody wants the 1960s again. Nobody wants the civil unrest that we had in the 60s and the 70s to happen again. Nobody in power. So I think it's easier for them to push the narrative that everything is okay now, try and steer away from the actual statistics of it and to see that we have not come as far as we believe we have.
Absolutely not. Absolutely. I'm 100% with you there. And you know what? And my main point on this issue, Andre, is that I blame the court system for us not coming this far, because we have had these laws on the books, for over 50 years. And if a black man or woman could go into court, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen, But in my experience, the system itself is rigged against, the equal treatment of minorities. And if courts and juries, if these cases were getting in front of juries and juries were deciding these cases and rebuking, the inequality, the racial inequality treatment by public officials of minorities, we would be on the way to having the discipline that we don't have right now. That's always been one of my views on this.
Absolutely, but here's the thing. When you try and put a black man in front of a jury, there's no way, especially in let's say I'm in a city where it's only 20-30% black, and both lawyers have all of their challenges and all of that. There's no way I can get in front of a jury of my peers because all of the blacks are going to be dismissed right off of the gate. And of course, because of what goes on in the media, just like everyone else, the whites are going to see me as a hardened criminal.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's why I pride in myself being a white lawyer and trying to represent minority people because, and not that it makes a difference, but I think it does for that kind of psychological purpose. And, people out there see, this white guy speaking up on behalf of a minority. Well, then, there's a relation there. And I don't know how you feel about that, but that's kind of how I always felt about it. I was very proud of my work in that area.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that we need to start bringing a lot more unity and bringing a lot more understanding of the different cultures between each other. And once we do that, once we start unifying and really start understanding each other, I think that we can start eliminating a lot of these stigmas.
Yeah.
Me being a 200-pound, bald-headed black guy, I get the stigma all the time. I walk down the street and I see old women grabbing their purses and things like that, locking their doors when I walk past. And I think that if people really got to know who really got to know each other's cultures and really started integrating a lot more, we could eliminate this within a generation.
I agree with you. And you know what? We didn't even get a chance to talk about, I wanted to maybe spend a couple minutes talking about some of the Black Lives Matters movement, and I'd love to have you back, Andre. We can talk about some of that some more, because
Absolutely.
there is,
Definitely come on the chamber too.
Yeah. And I'll give you a call later if you still want to do that interview tonight. I got a few minutes for you. I'll give you a call on the way home, if that works for you. We got hung up with some things today, but I've said this, and I take a controversial stance, and I get, I think some people disagree with me all the time, but we got a long way to go, folks. This issue of race inequality in this country is not where we need it to be. We got a lot of work to do. Tonight I had Andre Roxx. His show is on KYBN radio Monday through Fridays, 2 o'clock Eastern Time, 11 o'clock Pacific Time. AndreRoxx.com. We're out of time here, Andre. We'll be talking to you soon. And for January 26, 2015, justice has been served.